Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. My name is Nur Hidayah binti Hussein. Today I would like to present about the regulatory capture theory. So regulatory capture theory is the form of government failure which occurs when a regulatory agency created to act in the public interest instead advance the commercial or political concerns of special interest groups that dominate the industry or sector it is charged with regulating. So, based on this slide, the definition of regulatory capture theory is about the purpose to protect the public interest is not achieved. Public interest is not protected because those being regulated come to control or dominate regulator. So, in public interest theory, government finds some firms or industry have issues that may harm the society. To protect social interests from those harms, government set regulatory body to regulate the behavior of those firms and industry. So the regulatory body could be officers, legislation, or guiding principles. So they monitor organization to act good for the public. Okay, then capture theories agrees that regulations are introduced aimed to benefit the public at first, but the aim will eventually fail because as time flows, regulators are controlled by regulated party, and the regulator will protect the regulatory party. So industry are unhappy about being monitored. They could have more benefit or profit without regulation. So for the next slide is causes of regulatory capture. So for the causes of regulatory capture, I give the 3 points, which is asymmetric information, inefficiency of public sectors, and also regulatory become friendly with the firm they are dealing with. So for the first point is asymmetric information is about the regulator may rely on information coming from the firms. Example, information about price, cost, level of investment. So if with biased information, the regulator may be generous to firm. Example, allowing price increases to fund necessary investment. So for the next point is inefficiency of public sectors. So inefficiency of public sectors is about, it is argued that those working for a regulator do not have the same incentive to work hard and act like surrogate competition. So public regulators cannot keep any reduced profits, and owners of business by contrast have a greater vested interest in promoting higher profits. So this means it can be an unbalanced competition. So for the last point is regulator becomes friendly with the firms they are dealing with. So this is about the spending time with people makes you more sympathetic to their viewpoints. So if the regulator is in close contact and communications, then they can end up being sympathetic to their point of view and end up giving generous term of regulations. Next is criticism of capture theory. So about criticism of capture theory, there is some people say that this theory has some weaknesses in its theoretical foundations. So there some questions cannot be answered, and though the theory described that the deal between regulatory agency and the regulated party affect regulatory process, so it does not suggest what process the regulated party did to capture the regulator. So customers' interests will also be affected by the new set up rules, and the theory did not explain why customer cannot capture the regulatory agency to protect their interests. Next, why does regulatory capture matters? So this part we want to know why is it matters. So first point consumer interests may be harmed, regulators fail to hold suppliers to account and enforce minimum standard service. So this means that they harm both in the short term and in the long run if supplier business in the market are not held to account. For example, regulator does not enforce a minimum standard of service. So for the next point is about the price will be higher for consumer than they would be if there was better regulation, and that can lead to a fall in real incomes. And also this perhaps a regressive effects on relatively poor household. And what other matters is there also can be damaging externalities, external costs if the regulators fails to act, perhaps leading to a social welfare loss. So what I can conclude from this topic is it is important to recognize that different interest groups influence the regulatory process. What needs to be ensured is that none of these interest groups can achieve a disproportionate level of influence. So, in practical terms, it is necessary to put in place mechanism and incentive that make public interest groups more active in the regulatory process. And in negotiation between regulatory agency and regulated firm, regulatory agency should have clear mission, should promote transparency and participation of the various interest groups in public discussion and negotiation, and be provided with adequate human and financial resource, adequately remunerate their expert technician, and promote their professional identity as regulator. That's all. Thank you.